this out.
Luke Doran versus Sam Chen. All right. So Sam on your right has been one of the best players in the game for a while now.
Yeah, absolutely. Sam is just, I think, one of the best American players in the game, one of the best players in the game, period. If you want to talk about someone that's going to make very good in-game decisions, and this is not to take anything away from Sam's testing ability or anything like that, but he is someone I think of as a very clean player in the game.
Yeah, it's really beautiful to watch. Most of the time, as we were saying, Sam's the type of person that doesn't really test too much. He has a super busy life. He does a million things at once. Usually gets handed the deck the night before, and then just wins a tournament.
Yeah. I remember when I would talk to Sam about the old city championships, or kind of the like league cups are now, and he would just say, yeah, you know what, cities take place in the winter. I'm really busy at work in the winter, so I just wake up on Saturday morning, I rely on my teammates to test it for me, they hand me the deck, and usually Sam was going to win. So his in-game ability is just so strong. I'm not sure what he's on today, but I trust that regardless of what his deck choice is, in his in-game decisions are going to be correct 99% of the time.
Yeah, so I was actually walking around a little bit earlier during round 2. Saw what Sam's playing. He actually is playing that Green's Exploration Reshiram Charizard.
Okay, so interesting. So already we see that the top players in the game have are maybe split on this a little bit. Some people are playing the ability version of Reshiram Charizard. Some are deciding to go with Greens. Sam Chen has decided to go with that Greens version. It looks like he's going to take a mulligan right now.
Oh, and it looks like Luke is playing Blacephalon here. Is that just a bunch of energy?
Yeah, so Sam going to take a mulligan here. I do think I saw a B-string in Luke's hand.
Yeah, I saw Fire Energies and B-string, and Blacephalon GX is one of the decks that we didn't really get to talk about. It is pretty well presented. I think it's maybe the 4th or 5th most played deck.
Yeah, it looks like 4th to me.
And it's been one of those decks that's just really good. It's consistent, does its thing very well. But if anyone has a way to kind of like play around B-string, then you're kind of in for a world of hurt.
Yeah, B-string, again, a very powerful card, but requiring you to play it at certain times in the game. And when these decks, especially when like the Buzzwole decks were a lot more popular, we would see entire games be focused around, okay, I need to skip the B-string turn, or I need to do this on your B-string turn and just not let it happen. And if you're absolutely right, Blacephalon, very, very powerful, very streamlined, but if you can manipulate it, it can be really tough for the Blacephalon deck to actually get there.
Oh, and it looks like Sam is going to start that Reshiram and Charizard GX in the active spot. His deck does play 4 copies of Volcanion, and usually that's what you kind of want to start with. It's a little bit hard to get it into the active spot because there's no real search for it. So he's going to really have to change his game plan and just go aggro Reshiram Charizard.
So how do you think this matchup actually lines up? Blacephalon versus Reshiram and Charizard. Starts notwithstanding, but just generally deck versus deck. How do you think this usually goes? Who's actually favored?
So on paper, Blacephalon usually takes the win against most of the tag team decks. I think that might be what happened here because Sam's deck is relying on a lot of healing cards. He plays stuff like Choice Helmet, Great Potion, Mixed Herbs. So he's hoping his opponent doesn't knock out his 300 HP Reshiram Charizard GX after a Choice Helmet. But the thing is, well, Luke can.
Blacephalon is actually one of the decks that can do that can get to those high numbers and might put Sam in a world of hurt here.
Yeah, and being able to just get out his setup Pokemon too. He needs those Poi Pools. The Ditto could turn into something like a Ninetales or even the Persian GX we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, a lot of options here for Luke. See him debating over an attachment. Going to go on to Blacephalon, and now we're going to see a Dedenne. Again, one of the cards we're going to see all weekend in a lot of decks here, drawing 6 fresh cards for Luke.
Yeah, didn't have to discard too much. I think it was just 1 B-string in his hand. Does hit the Welder. Welder is one of those cards that, while it's just amazing with Reshiram and Charizard GX, amazing with stuff like the Mewtwo and Mew GX to pair with all that stuff, recharging it up. I think it's been the card that Blacephalon's loved the most. We used to see them back in Latin America last November. Zach Lesage was playing, or didn't have Energy Switch in his deck, so he lost. And then people started playing Energy Switch because you needed to charge up a Blacephalon in 1 turn. But now it's like, okay, well, I don't really need to care about that because I can just welder whenever I want to charge one up.
Right. Energy switch, no thank you. We've got welder. And there is the welder attaching 2 fire energy to that Blacephalon, drawing 3 cards. Sam actually tweeted earlier that he had forgotten to draw his cards off the welder. He just, the front half earlier in the tournament was so good, he just didn't even realize he needed to draw.
Yeah, he's like, wow, you can attach 2 energy from your hand. That's insane.
Wow, what a card. All right, we see that big welder and then a pass by Luke. Now going into Sam's turn with that Reshiram and Charizard active.
Yeah, that's probably one of the best turn ones Luke could ask for there. It doesn't have a replacement Blacephalon, but with that Ultra Space in play, you can search it whenever you want. Has the Meowth down, so you can get access to that Persian GX. You also have that Ditto for the Ninetales or a 3rd Naganadel if you want to.
There's like a couple of Acro Bikes on Sam's side. Hand full of trainer cards, just need to decide which one to deploy.
Yeah, and so this is the rough part. I think if he started the Volcanion here, this hand is pretty amazing. Volcanion has that first attack Flare Starter, 1 fire, search your deck for a fire. If it's your second turn, you can search for 3 instead, and then attach them to one of your Pokemon. It might be something he tries to go for with the greens here, especially since no welder in his hand. The greens was his only supporter. He does have a Pokegear, but he might be looking to set up a little bit.
Yeah, and so I'm going to go ahead and activate that Ultra Space just to kind of look through his deck. We actually saw this happen earlier, similar thing happen earlier on stream where there's not really going to be a search here. There's just going to be, I want to determine what my prizes are.
Yeah, and that's just a staple of players here. This is the World Championships. I think no one's going to not check their prizes except for maybe Drew because, you know, he always never checks his prizes. He tells me that every time.
Yeah, we are going to see players, of course, play at the absolute highest level at this point, which is exactly what Sam's doing, taking every little edge that he can.
All right. Fiery Flint, again, just another card that really pushed forward these decks. Fire types in general have just taken over the metagame for the past few tournaments.
Yeah, and we'll see that happen whenever there are cards that are so type specific, you know, Fiery Flint, Welder, things like that. In the past, we've had Dark Patch. You know, whenever they decide to print cards that really boost one type, we usually see players doing whatever they can to make sure they're playing that type and getting all of those advantages.
Yeah, and so with the 4 energy in hand, he does have the greens. He could Pokegear into the Welder. That could be something. But then you run the risk of Luke just having an amazing hand, getting 6 energy in play, and taking a knockout.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Sam does this turn. You can see he's kind of clearly thinking about things, thinking about the math. Looks like we might just see a greens.
Oh, it actually wasn't a Pokegear. It was a mixed herb in his hand.
Oh, okay. Immediately takes the Cherish Ball off of greens. Looks like he's going to have to put a little bit more time into thinking about what else he's going to get.
And it looks like a Heat Factory as well. This is one of my favorite plays with greens, just because it kind of acts as its own welder in a sense where, all right, I'll search for something I need, and I get to draw 3 cards.
Right. And we do see that Cherish Ball immediately get cashed in for a Reshiram and Charizard GX. Those 2 cards are in his hand. And Sam still has a few more things to do this turn. So, you know, no cards on the board, hasn't attached anything, but he's just been going through his deck, drawing cards, just making sure his setup is going to be as good as possible after what is a pretty rough start.
Yeah, well, the deck is very different. Oh, there is a Pokegear. The deck is very different than the Reshiram Charizard we saw from last round. Jirachi and Denene really making that deck seem very fast. This deck, slow, methodical. Wow, draws into the Volcanion here.
There we go.
And remember, no search cards. I don't believe he plays Pokemon Communication either. So that Heat Factory is huge. I don't know if he didn't discard the switch in his hand. So yeah, he had 2. So there's the switch, and we will see the Flare Starter here, and then charge up a Reshiram and Charizard GX.
All right, so I just said it was a kind of a rougher start by Sam, but that Heat Factory actually gave him everything that he needed, and we see that perfect, you know, turn 1 going second attack.
Yeah, the universe provides, and Sam lucking out over there.
And I mean, you do see, you know, Sam was very careful to, you know, I'm going to play these acrobikes. I'm going to see I'm going to look through my deck with the Ultra Space. I'm going to kind of make sure I can take all of the cards I can to give myself the highest chance to draw the Volcanion, which Sam knew he needed to do, which is just, obviously it's still pretty lucky to draw it there in that spot, but you have to, give yourself every little bit of percentage that you can. And speaking of cards that are focused on, one or two types, the Mysterious Treasure been huge for Psychic and Dragon Pokemon there.
Yeah, and also the one bad thing about playing that Heat Factory, though, is your opponent can abuse it as well. And with just another fire, that's 6 total that he could get into play.
Yeah, definitely, stadiums do work both ways, and this is one of the decks that can definitely abuse it. So Sam definitely has to kind of be careful there, but I think at that point he just really needed to.
Yeah. And I would say this is probably Sam's hardest matchup outside of maybe something like a heavy Keldeo rush.
Which we actually have seen a little bit of in today, more than I thought we would.
I know Peter Kika is playing some Keldeo shenanigans.
Yeah, Peter usually a New York player that usually plays something kind of a little wackier. Played Night March the whole time that was around, and we'll see. We'll have to see how he does.
But this setup is looking pretty good. Using the Heat Factory, although he does not have the Ultra Space anymore, so it's a little bit harder to find the rest of his Naganadels.
I don't know if this is picking up on the mics that are going out to the stream, but you can see Sam has a very kind of relaxed atmosphere. He's been talking basically this whole match to his opponent.
He never stops.
Yeah, he's always in a world where we're playing at the World Championship when we're so focused and there can be kind of sometimes robotic kind of game theory optimal plays. It's really nice to see someone like Sam that's a little bit more relaxed. Obviously, doing the right thing. He's an amazing player. It's not going to cost him anything, but it's fun to just see some more personality and some fun being thrown around.
All right, so it looks like after the retreat, he will, mind blown here, remove 3 fire to take the knockout on the Volcanion.
So first knockout goes to Luke.
And now remember, Blacephalon has a little bit of reach there too. So you take 1 knockout there. He's going to take a knockout on a Reshiram and Charizard later on. But even though he does have Burst GX, he'll still be 1 prize card short. And that's what this Greens version of the Reshiram Charizard deck especially loves doing, is having your opponent play that 7-8 prize card game.
Right. You take a knockout on a Volcanion, then you knock out one of the tag teams, then you knock out another Volcanion, and it's kind of saying, well, now you get to take 1 more prize, but guess what? There's the prize you have to take has 270 hit points.
Yeah. All right, this is a tough Acker bike. Probably one of the reasons, personally, I don't like it. Here is a Welder and a Fire Crystal off the top of the deck. He's going to have to discard 1, and honestly, oh, that's so rough.
Yeah, Sam deep in the tank.
This is a real decision.
You can hear him say it's a really tough decision.
Yeah, and there's 3 fire in the discard as well. We saw with his last Flare Start, he actually didn't have much fire in his deck left. He also opts to play 1 Fighting Energy and 1 Martial Arts, or the Martial Arts Dojo.
Looks like he is going to decide to keep the Welder.
Taking my jolly old time for no reason.
So yeah, he does have another Fire Crystal in hand, so it's not too detrimental. The Welder will allow him to set up another Reshiram Charizard on his bench. Pretty good. He looks really good right now.
Yeah, I think at that point, that's still the sort of thing you have to go into the tank and think about. But with another Fire Crystal in your hand, it's not. You want to take the Welder and kind of get set up as much as you can.
Does opt to bench the other Volcanion there. Now, it is a little bit risky. We were saying the 8 prize card game, but Blacephalon and its Burst GX can just discard a prize card.
Yeah, that's very true. Sam has to be very aware of that. One of the ways he might have to edit his game plan versus a deck like this. Shows you the real power of GX attacks too. Some of them are very weird, strange, do strange things to the game. Sam obviously knows about it, but it is going to be something he's going to have to think about as the match progresses.
All right, well, he gets the 3rd Reshiram and Charizard from the deck, but I believe he won't really be able to use it this game. Kind of just thinning out. You don't really want to draw into it.
Yeah, if you're not going to be able to use a card, you definitely don't want to draw into it. So just making his draws as good as possible, and there's a reset stamp.
Yeah, and that's a pretty early one, too. Luke only has 5 prize cards remaining, so he will be able to draw 5 cards. Not too bad, but he kind of knows, like, yeah, you probably had like a B string or two in your hand, and he was right.
Yeah, reset stamp is not usually a card that you want to save for as late in the game as possible, but sometimes you just have to fire it off here. You know, your opponent has a big hand, or you know some of the cards in their hand, so one of the many disruptive uses of that card.
To use my, not the GX attack, I'm just going to Flare Strike.
All right, so there is a Flare Strike for 230 damage for knockout there. 2 prizes go to Sam, and B-String is now live for Luke.
One of the things I like about Sam's play there, too, is he's being very clear about what's going on. B-String,
yeah, B-String off the top here, has a Mysterious Treasure as well, but is there a way for him to get Blacephalon this turn? I see a Lily, but other than that, I don't see a way to search for stuff. He's going to have to hit really good off this Lily.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to put it all on the back of Lily here. Mysterious Treasure thinning out that hand a bit. So we got some upside down cards on the deck. Will be corrected shortly.
Yeah, and that's rough. He does not have another Naganadel in the deck, or at least opts not to get it, maybe trying to save that Ditto Prism for a Ninetales later on.
You're whipping it, okay.
Yeah, just being clear that he's going to fail the Mysterious Treasure here. And now he's just...
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. He's going to B-String now just to draw more cards. But now he's going to need to draw either another B-String or have some sort of alternate attacker here.
Yeah, 2 energy straight from the deck onto the active Naganadel.
All right. He does have a few outs, though. Ultra Space gets you a Blacephalon. Cherish Ball also gets you Blacephalon. Pokemon Communication. And he will just need either like another B-String or something, or he will be forced to attack with
he will need the communication and another Pokemon if that's one of his outs, and it looks like he actually
B-String and a bunch of Pokemon, but none of those are Blacephalon GX. And yeah. I think Sam has squeaked by this turn with this Reshiram and Charizard act. Oh, Heat Factory
draws. 1, 2,
no.
3.
Wow, this is huge. To be able to take that knockout and then have your opponent not respond with a huge B-String turn, it's the best thing you can ask for.
Yeah, so unfortunate draws from Luke's side there. Again, just trying to find that Blacephalon through a Lily, through a Heat Factory. Couldn't actually get there. Use one of his B-Strings already. He does have a wealth of Pokemon in his hand. Has some, item cards he can play as well, but not what he was looking for at all.
Yeah, has that reset stamp, will be able to get rid of the hand that Sam's been building up here, which is good. Reset stamp is the bane of this Grains Exploration Reshiram Charizard GX deck.
Yeah, reset stamp, resetting Sam to 4 cards in hand. Sam has done a good job of thinning out his deck, though, so it probably won't hurt him as much as it could have, but definitely one of the big disadvantages of playing this Grains Exploration version of the deck. And you can see Luke taking advantage of that and saying, you know what, I'm pretty far behind here. I did not hit what I needed this turn, but I still got to do everything that I can.
All right, well, there is the double charging up, and we'll either see a retreat into like a nobody or an attack. But yeah, here is the retreat to the Meowth.
All right, Meowth, you're going to take this big hit. Sorry, buddy. Everyone has their role.
All right, and Sam actually got a greens off that reset stamp. It's probably the best thing you can ask for, especially with a custom catcher in his hand. He will be able to custom catcher the Dedenne GX and then knock it out and get out of B-String turn, meaning Luke will only have something like Welder as an out to attack with Blacephalon, and that would almost seal the game here.
It looks like that greens is coming down. Sam going to check the contents of his hand. Just make sure he's doing the exact right thing. He's so close to victory here.
Yeah, reset stamp is not a very good card when your opponent has like stuff like Heat Factory in play too.
Absolutely.
Sam having that fire in his hand could opt to draw 3 with Heat Factory or just charge up the Reshiram Charizard on the bench.
It's a pretty common play with Greens Exploration is to get custom catcher or any other card and then another Greens Exploration. Just kind of keep the chain going. For as long as you can.
Kind of reminds me going way back of the old like Cyrus for a Cyrus and a tool you need.
Exactly, exactly.
And double custom catcher, bring up that GX Pokemon. And remember, he Flare Striked last turn, but he'll be able to use Double Blaze GX to take the knockout here. Going down to 2 prizes, and it is looking all Sam right now.
GX marker has been flipped, and NA is in the discard pile. 2 prizes remaining for Sam Chen. That's just 1 big GX knockout. Skips Beast Ring turns entirely. Not hitting that Blacephalon was so huge for Luke. Is there anything he can do to crawl back into this game?
So he drew into a Welder, has no fire in hand. And yeah,
nope. He has decided there is nothing he can do. Sam Chen will take game 1 here at the World Championships. Both of these players 2-0, looking to go 3-0 again because of the kind of interesting structure of this day 1 of this tournament. You will just need 18 match points, or 6 wins, 5 wins, and 3 draws, however you want to line it up. So both these players still pretty far away from that, but winning all that they can.
Yeah, it was all down to that one turn where he just did not get an attack off. And granted, we're saying that, but I think that was what, like turn 3?
Yeah, I mean, against these tag team decks, there are just times where you really need to let the pressure, keep the pressure on. You can't really afford to take a turn off. And, he happened to take a turn off the turn after Sam was setting up his whole board, right?
Yeah.
And so it was just doubly bad. We saw, again, in the beginning, we were like, well, Luke has a great matchup. Here, Sam has some optimal start, and then the next 10 cards of each player's deck just told a different story, and Sam was able to take the victory.
Yeah, it came down to bumping that Ultra Space with that Heat Factory turn 1, and then just drawing the Volcanion off the Heat Factory too. Pretty insane stuff.
Yeah, but that's why we play best of 3 here, of course, at the World Championship. So Luke still has 2 more games to play. If the matchup is in his favor, if he can manage to get lucky in a few spots, maybe he can take this match and advance to 3-0.
And now we're saying Blacephalon GX has the ability to take the knockout, the one-hit knockout on these big tag team Pokemon, but it's still 6 energy. It's still a lot.
Yeah, when you're a card like Blacephalon GX, that's kind of the downside and the upside, right? The upside is, wow, I can knock out anything that I want. Some decks just don't have the ability to do that. But the caveat to that as well, it's going to cost me a lot. So it's not easy to do. I can't do it repeatedly. But at least I have the ability to actually do it.
Well, and even there, with Sam getting the Volcanion, Luke was kind of forced to take the knockout there and had to use 3 energies just for that.
Right, you have to commit. Whenever you have an attack like that, you're discarding energy, or you're using some sort of resource. Having to commit them when you don't want to, when it's not perfect, can be really detrimental for you.
And I think the thing that probably makes this Reshiram and Charizard deck one of the stronger contenders is the fact that it has advantages on the play and when you're going second. If you're going first, then maybe I'll get a big Welder turn, get set up, and then maybe even Double Blaze for 300 next turn.
Sure.
Or if you're going, or set up greens and then Welder next turn. But if you're going second, then you're like, oh, well, if I get Volcanion, I'll just get 3 energy in play. It's pretty good too. So even though Sam won game 1, he's going to most likely go second here because, every other deck in the format wants to go first.
Right, going first is a huge advantage. It looks like we will start with the Volcanion.
Yeah, if so, it's going to be pretty big. Although if you start Volcanion and no greens or way to search for it, the Reshiram and Charizard, it's a little bit bad for you.
So Sam took a mulligan there, and I actually should say in the round 2 feature match with Philip Schultz, his opponent actually took either 4 or 5 mulligans going into game 3. So Philip was going first and just got to draw basically a whole new hand of cards, which may have helped a little bit there.
A little bit. It's not bad.
It is now round 3. We are into game 2. Volcanion staring down Blacephalon. Luke losing an unfortunate game 1 is now going to be playing first.
Yeah, but then looking at Luke's hand, still looks pretty good. There's the Mysterious Treasure, discard, probably going to get another Poipole. And then you have the Welder with the 2 fire energy in your hand. You can attach it to the active, draw 3 cards, but that's all he really has after that.
Yep, we see this early turn just kind of setting up, getting another Poipole down, getting rid of this Beast Ring won't be relevant for a little bit. And then passing back to Sam, who could have a very, very explosive turn 1 on his side.
Yeah, it all depends on, does he have the greens? Does he have a way to search Cherish Ball?
There are a lot of outs there. Not a number scientist. I don't exactly know what the likelihood of having a Reshiram and Charizard on the first turn is for Sam, but it's likely that he does. I know that much.
Sloppily drag your deck back to the original spot.
There's a Welder, 3 fresh cards, 2 energy.
All right, not bad. Does have that Pokemon communication that can search for Denonate GX and draw some more cards next turn or even this turn if he chooses to. It gets him out of his kind of mediocre hand.
Well, it looks like that was the end of that turn. Green's exploration off the top, so if Sam's hand wasn't already good enough, he's now basically fixed it.
Well, okay, so he has the greens, the second one now, has the Welder, has a custom catcher just in case, and then he has the energy spinner. Energy spinner is an energy search, essentially. Search your deck for an energy.
Except.
But if you go second, you can search your deck for 3 basic energy. So he's going to have an insane turn right now.
Yeah, so going second there was actually huge for Sam. You know, going first is what Luke chose to do. It's what every deck chooses to do. But these cards, Volcanion, Energy Spinner, really trying to kind of make it so the going second isn't so bad. It's actually making it so going second's broken in this deck.
I know. Like, usually I try to say to myself, like, I'm never going to, like, playing a game, win a die roll and say, I'm going to go second.
Right.
I don't even know if those words can come out of my mouth when I'm playing a game. But this Volcanion, Energy Spinner, all this stuff, it's making a case. Like,
yeah.
People were kind of saying, like, oh, Zapdos, like, you kind of want to go second in the mirror match so you can take the first prize. This might be better.
Yeah, I mean, this turn's just going to be great for Sam, all because of a few cards that you kind of want to play anyway. I mean, Energy Spinner isn't exactly a super powerful card, but it is one that you hope to draw in your first turn going second. We do something interesting in Sam's deck right now. We see that fighting energy.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier last round. He had that Martial Arts Dojo as his like last prize. And Sam plays it really just so you can hit 240 with your Flare Strike against something like Pikachu and Zekrom GX. But then if you're losing, you can actually hit 270 and take a knockout on pretty much every tag team.
Yeah, you go big at that. So that's a little interesting. This deck is really focused on fire energy. But just kind of running this like 2-card tech, I guess. This doesn't, Sam's obviously thought it was.
So you can get it with greens. You can get the Stadium and Energy Spinner, and Energy Spinner for the fighting. It's pretty versatile.
Yeah, that's just a great, really simple way to kind of say, not only am I gonna have to change my deck building to accommodate greens, but maybe I can take advantage of just being able to search for any 2 cards when I want.
Exactly. All right, so it looks like with greens, he chose Cherish Ball and Mixed Herbs here. Mixed Herbs is one of those cards that is pretty mediocre in this matchup, but has its moments because you're never really going to play it for the second effect.
Sure.
You're really going to play it for the first effect to get rid of a special condition.
Sure.
Because of Bursting Burn. One of the outs that Blacephalon has against these big tag team Pokemon, if it's kind of falling a little bit behind, is like, okay, well, I'm going to burn you and confuse you. You're going to take 20, so it's easier for me to knock you out, and maybe it'll take a little bit more.
Makes a lot of sense as we see Luke communicating away a Ninetales. It's going to go back in his deck when Sam's done reading it. Sam did have to go ahead and just double-check exactly what that did. Ninetales being a replacement for Guzma. That kind of gust of wind effect. We saw Philip Schultz use it to great success last round, and it may actually, be one of the better cards in this tournament.
Yeah, and there it is. It's just insane to think about. Like, yeah, I'm going to go second, but I'm going to have a better setup than you did on your first turn.
Yeah, putting this, one prize attacker in the active position, loading up the big tag team on the bench. Even got to greens for an extra card there. Just great setup by Sam on the first turn.
All right, well, this is not bad. Luke did get the second Blacephalon down, the thing he was missing last game. Has a Mysterious Treasure for that Naganadol, and then I think he drew a Lily for the turn. Wow.
Boom, a fresh Lily, too. All 8 cards.
6.
Or 6 cards, rather.
High five.
High five.
Joking about high-fiving. Oh, there it is.
There we go. Little good sportsmanship here.
Doesn't have quite the same energy as the Sycamore with no cards in hand, but
that was more just like the cool, like, oh, hey, what's up, man?
Yeah. Nice. We're passing through the hall. Nice to see you, kind of thing.
Yeah. All right, Heat Factory doesn't get too many cards that really help him out here. And now the big thing is, does he decide to go for the Mind Blown again to take the knockout on the Volcanion? It looks like he is. And where do you get rid of that other energy? You would have to think the active is going to get knocked out.
Yeah, it looks like that's what Luke is debating about right now, is where do I take the energy from? Looks like he is going to decide to go for the active. That's kind of the safer play if you expect the active to be knocked out, which I think is a good expectation. So leaving that benched Blacephalon with the energy attached to it.
I'll use Heat Factory.
All right, Heat Factory for Sam now. Gets a greens, all right. He will be able to keep his setup rolling, especially with the 2 greens and the welder in his hand. Kind of unfortunate he didn't draw a Pokemon there, because then you could just welder, attach, and kind of do your own thing like he did last game.
Yeah, it's definitely Sam taking some time to look through his hand here, saying, all right, well, I don't have a Pokemon here. I've only used Heat Factory, so I still have all these cards in my hand, still have my supporter available, but what's the best way to kind of get me through this game? What can my opponent do next turn? And it looks like he's decided he's going to greens.
So he's going to have to greens here just because he needs another Reshiram and Charizard GX on the bench. The only other option that he could go with that is depending on if he gets something like Choice Helmet.
Sure.
Doesn't really affect your damage, though. He's still going to need 6 energy to get rid of it, unless he goes for something like Bursting Burn. But here he's going to go for the double custom catcher. And I think that's probably the play. He does have the 1 in hand already. He could choose something else, but I believe he wants to just be able to do it again next turn. And you don't really need anything here. And barring, I think, like 2 B-strings from your opponent, I think your Reshiram's pretty safe.
And you've already seen him discard 1 as well. There's the double custom catcher. There's that.
Oh, and here he's actually
energy.
playing around B-string entirely, bringing up that Meowth to shut off any potential catwalk shenanigans later on, and kind of playing the slower game here. Like, okay, well, I'm not gonna play into you taking a surprise victory here.
Right. We were just talking about how unlikely it would be for his opponent to have 2 B-strings, but Sam's just saying, I just don't want that to be a possibility.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to completely cut off that option for
It
you.
actually would have lost in the game, too, because Luke actually just top-decked another welder.
Yeah, is the welder B-string in hand. All right, Heat Factory activation for Luke.
And that's the rough thing, though. I think with this welder, and then if he has another Naganadel, he will be able to take the knockout here on this Reshiram Charizard. Just does he have enough energy?
Oh.
I see 1 in the discard. If there's 2, I think that'll be it.
Right, welder, 3 more cards.
Does he get away to discard an energy? Attach. Detonate,
Oh,
there we go, and that will be it.
Yep. And Sam
And Luke takes game 2 in a pretty decisive fashion here, top decking the welder, and then having the Detonate GX to discard the rest of the fire he needs.
Yeah, we said, oh, it's probably not going to, it's probably not going to be able to knock out this Reshiram and Charizard. You gotta think it's pretty safe, right? I mean, he would need multiple cards, and then Luke just had it all there.
Yeah, it was just pretty amazing. That welder is what did it for him, and he's hoping to do it again. And again, that's probably the biggest drawback for this Greens Reshiram and Charizard is that you just always play with a low bench. No real Pokemon search other than Cherish Ball, so you just got to draw into your Pokemon and hope you find them.
So I can never get the second one out.
Yeah, definitely. Greens.
Oh, he actually prized the Cherish Ball. He's talking about that right now. So that's why he went for the double custom catcher. He couldn't get another Pokemon last turn.
Makes a lot of sense there. Unfortunate prizes for Sam. Unfortunate turn of events after what was a pretty decisive game 1. But Luke took game 2, kind of did what his deck was supposed to do, explode with a lot of energy, take big knockouts when we think he couldn't. And now we have 18 minutes
Plenty of time
remaining for a 3rd game here in round 3. One of these players will hopefully, barring any kind of tie situation, advancing to 3-0, one step closer to day 2 here at the biggest and most important Pokemon tournament of the year.
Yeah. I think 5-0 start probably locks you in, because then you just ID the rest.
Yeah, I think the issue with that is that
If you play down.
if you play down at any point, like imagine you 5-0, you draw once or twice, and you have to play down, and it just feels so bad, right?
Oh, yeah.
Whereas I think a lot of people would say, okay, well, at 5-0, I have 3 more shots to win a match. If I can't win one of the next 3 matches, I probably don't deserve to be in day 2.
Oh, that's rough, though. I've had some friends do that, and it's never great.
Yep, you see that a lot at the regional championships too, where people will go, "Oh, you know, I have 6 points, or I have 6 wins rather. I don't want to take an ID. I just want to try." That happened to one of my good friends at the last Northwest regionals, and it was 6-0, 6-1, 6-2, 6-3. All right, I guess I'm not coming back for tomorrow. At least in that situation, you have the ability to at 6-2 go, okay, let's shake hands, and all right, I tried enough. You know, I'm not a hero. So it'll be interesting to see. I think this tournament structure is really interesting, and I suspect that we'll see most players just try to play out to their 6th win. But it's nice. It's a really interesting thing because, you know, most tournaments, okay, again, you know, you're 7-0 at the regionals. All right, well, I'm going to play the next 2 rounds. I still really need to focus because I want to put myself in the best position. But this tournament is just like, all right, I went 6-0, cool, I'm done. I'm going to go back to the hotel room. I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to do whatever. And you just don't have to worry about the rest of the tournament.
All right, again, Sam starts that Reshiram Charizard. It'll be interesting to see if he went first or second. This will be the first time he'll actually be able to choose. Has Dojo, Heat Factory, and Power Plant prize. Those are some pretty big cards in this matchup. Power Plant really only for that Denonate GX, but the other 2 have been coming in handy for him. Or Dojo, not so much. It's been prized every time.
Yeah. And it looks like Sam has chosen to go first. Welder was the draw. Looks like a Greens Exploration will be the first card played here. Reshiram and Charizard start again, so not the ideal Volcanion that you talked about, but we've seen him win games from this position before.
Yeah, and this is the one rough spot. Oh, man. Having the fighting energy in his hand where it could have been a fire to double Welder here.
Punished. Absolutely punished there.
Getting a little fancy, and it's not really paying off for him.
Yeah, clearly remains to be seen. You know, I have a lot more Pokemon to play to determine if that was the right call or not, having the fighting energy. But that's one of the corner cases where you go, okay, well, you know, I have to accept that this does add some amount of inconsistency to my deck.
All right, well, here's the greens. Looks like he's eyeing down Cherish Ball and maybe something like Energy Spinner, but not really sure what he's going to go for here.
Looks like Cherish Ball is the easy
Fiery Flame. That's much
take
better
here. Sam going to take his time, decide what is exactly the best thing to get.
Yeah, me too.
Players talking about the clock winding down, just really wanting to make sure that they can complete this match one way or another. Again, we just talked about how draws don't really help all that well.
Yeah,
all that much here.
It's essentially a loss.
Yeah, you just have to get in such a specific position to be able to leverage your draws in a tournament like this, and you know, like we just spent a couple minutes talking about, maybe you can't even leverage them. So we're looking for 3 match points and 0 match points here. Are both of these players. There's another Reshiram and Charizard off that Cherish Ball, off of the Greens Exploration.
Oh, Sam forgot to check for something. Making sure to go back.
Confirming the prizes. Nothing wrong with that. You know, pace of play is totally fine. The clock is winding down, but hopefully we'll have enough time to finish this. You would hate to play too quickly because you're worried about the clock, and then you lose the match because of it with 5 minutes left or something.
All right, well, Fire Energy will be coming down on that Restaurant Charizard. I almost thought he was going to play the Fighting. Which you can, but with that Fiery Flint, you have enough fuel for those welders for the next few turns.
We're seeing that attachment and pass back to Luke's lone Mew.
Luke's hand looks pretty good here. I think, a couple Mysterious Treasures, couple Fire Energies, Lily to draw up to 8. Oh, and starting the Mew is actually going to be insane right here. Psi Power could give him a quick option to put 30 damage on these Reshiram and Charizard, and that puts you in range to take the knockout with just 5 energy instead of 6.
Wow, so yeah, maybe not quite your optimal starter here, but one that Luke can really make use of. Having to get rid of fewer energy with that Blacephalon GX is absolutely huge.
All right, so that is the first mysterious treasure. Second, or no, it's not. The beast ring is there.
You may think
Hand's not as good.
No.
Lily still does draw 5. He might opt for the Cynthia here just because the hand doesn't add too much value next turn.
Sure, yeah, not going to be able to turn on that beast ring. You know, those cards are going to be dead here.
But then the thing you run the risk of is if you Cynthia and then just don't draw into supporter, you already had a Cynthia for next turn if you Lilied.
Right, it's kind of greedy to play the Cynthia, but it's the more explosive play for sure. He's just going to go ahead and draw a straight 5 cards. Cannot complain too much about that.
All right, let's see. Double Welder. Ultra Space is a pretty good card here. Being able to get another Poiple.
Fire
Hand's
Energy
looking
was the other
all
draw.
right.
Ultra Space hits the board. It's going to get activated immediately. Ultra Space is one of the things we saw Luke lack in the late in the first game. Could not, you know, find the Pokemon as consistently as he needed to, but looks like it's not going to be a problem in the early turns here.
Yeah, Ultra Beast, just as an archetype, really having one of the better setup cards in Ultra Space Stadium that just searches your deck for an Ultra Beast and put it in your hand. Basics. Stage 1, Stage 2, doesn't care.
Yeah, whenever you want, no cost besides playing the stadium, which, you know, there are a lot of stadiums now in the game, and taking up a stadium is really, does really matter, but it's so free compared to how everyone else has to search out their Pokemon.
Fire Crystal off the top does not really help here, and Sam will have an interesting decision to do. He will take the knockout here on the Mew, although Luke playing it beautifully, only putting 2 damage on the active, meaning Outrage will not be able to take the return KO here. And 2 is all you really need since it'll be at 250.
Yeah, just got to take those small edges. Really, really important to make sure you're thinking about everything like that. Spreading the damage around exactly
This
correctly.
would be where he needs the martial arts dojo.
Yeah. Sam almost taking 5 energy there, but realizing, oh, sorry, that only actually gets 4. My mistake.
Yeah. I wish. I thought about it. I actually thought about it. I just don't have greens in my hand.
No, he was actually, his opponent was like, oh man, you should have dojoed with the fighting energy. He's like, oh, I should have thought about that. But dojo is in the prizes, so it didn't really matter too much. So he will have the welder for this turn. He can attach it to the active, take the knockout here, or attach it to the bench and then do some damage to Outrage, but that never really seems good.
There's the welder. 2 energy on the active. 3 cards added to Sam's hand.
Pokegear is pretty good. He did discard the 1, but he'll be able to find a greens if he needs to later on. Oh, 4th energy coming down, and then Flare Strike taking the knockout on the Mew here. Really hoping that Luke does not have the return knockout. We'll need a little bit of cards, but it's essentially what? Welder 2 fire, attach, and then charge up twice. So he would need everything.
He would need everything, but I mean, he has the, well, the Dene might help with that, but he also has the Ultra Space.
I prefer the other one.
Oh, I don't know if Dene is gonna help here. Only 1 fire in hand.
Yeah, the hand there is lacking, unfortunately.
And with the double welder in his hand, you can't really afford to Dene change that hand away unless you just rip into that last welder and 2 more fire energy.
Yeah, unless you believe that you can get lucky, unless you just are, you know, feeling that the cards are in your favor.
Well, so it seems like Sam might have escaped this turn with no knockout.
All right, we're just going to see that Cynthia, which does cut him off of the knockout, right, because he can only charge up twice here. So he's just kind of saying, you know,
Wait, he can't even mind blown.
Right. I don't want to take the big risk here. I'm just going to Cynthia. Taking this turn off, you know, ball's going to be in your court, Sam.
Yeah, so this is where we could see a Bursting Burn or the Burst GX from Luke here. Both of them could be some good options. Confusion, maybe save him a turn from Sam's Onslaught, but Burst GX is your usual go-to.
6 fresh cards for Luke. We're going to see Ninetales, I believe it was, get communicated in.
Yeah, and then looks like Ditto is the option for him here.
When there's not a whole lot of, when you don't have a specific thing that you're sure you want to get, Ditto is kind of that, fills that role for you. You can turn into anything.
Oh, yeah.
Don't have to worry about it too much. Ditto was the choice.
You heard the nose power.
Yeah, it looks like his hand is all right. He does have the Heat Factory here. Opts to play it down now. It will help Sam out next turn. B-string's pretty good. Meowth could be good as well. But that's not too bad of a hand there. And here it is. Will he burst GX or will he bursting burn? And it looks like bursting burn is the choice here. 40 damage now on that Reshiram Charizard, and it is confused. So Sam will need to find hopefully a greens with that Pokegear so he can switch. And the one thing about the way Sam specifically has his Reshiram Charizard deck built is there's no pivot Pokemon.
Sure.
We've seen a few of these lists play one like Pheromosa, because as free retreat, you can search it with your opponent's Ultra Space, and you can switch your Charizard out, bring it active, Flare Strike again. But here, he can switch into his Volcanion and then Flare Starter, or switch Welder and then like Outrage or Double Blaze. It's going to be rough, and he would need to have it in his hand.
Yeah, definitely no way to really have a incredible turn from this position in this version of the Reshiram Charizard.
But here is the double mixed herbs being able to get rid of the special conditions and heal 90 from it. Pretty good to have that in his hand.
Gonna go ahead and activate Heat Factory first. Makes a lot of sense to kind of see what the rest of your
double
options
custom
are gonna
catcher
be.
as well.
Sam drawing a lot of his, double, can play two of them at the same time.
Well, when the deck plays
cards
8
here.
of them.
Yeah. I mean,
You're bound to.
And you're Heat Factoring, and that's why you have greens.
Even has the Pokegear to dig for greens if he chooses. I believe Sam only plays greens and Welder as his 2 supporters.
It looks like he's going to miss this Pokegear.
All right, this is pretty intense. This game's definitely slowed down a lot from the first 2. Just over 5 minutes left to go in the round, and there's only been 1 prize card taken.
Yeah, based on how the first couple games when I thought, okay, well, 18 minutes or 19 minutes or whatever it was, going to be plenty of time, but as we're approaching, like you said, just 5 minutes left, I'm not sure that's actually going to be the case here.
Oh, there's the Fire Crystal for 1 fire, but just wants to get the full value out of Welder here. Welder gets 2 energy on that benched Reshiram Charizard GX.
Draws him 3 fresh cards.
Gets the switch as well.
I'm not attached for turn yet.
So he does have the option to maybe... Oh, he doesn't have an energy. So if he gets an energy off his Acrobike, he can switch and Double Blaze. Ooh.
Looks like that's exactly what he found.
Discarding the Pokegear here, though, could hurt. His hand does not have a supporter out, but I think the fire is more valuable.
Yeah, this is Sam's attachment for a turn here to the benched Reshiram and Charizard.
Oh, and there's the double mixed herbs healing the active.
I'll play double mixed herbs on the active.
No more burn, no more confusion.
Yeah, and remember, he did Flare Strike last turn, so he'll be able to use Double Blaze if he chooses to, but no, there is the switch. Double Blaze with the benched one. And Sam's looking pretty good here. Oh, has that Dojo from the prizes. Discarded the fighting energy, so it's not effective at all. But yeah, Sam's like, oh yeah, it was prized. I was going to go for it.
Yeah, he's just literally explaining that to his opponent now in the middle of a game. The type of competitor.
Good guy, Sam.
Yeah, the type of competitor that Sam is. Heat Factory is gone. Martial Arts Dojo is in its place. GX marker has been flipped. 2 more prizes for Sam Chen.
All right, so with only 10 damage on that Reshiram Charizard GX, Luke will still need the full 6 energy to take the knockout, or if he can find his 1 of Beast Energy Prism, it could help his damage out. But here we go. His hand does have a Beast Ring, does have a Cherish Ball. Naganadel off the top has a Lily as well. It's a pretty good hand.
Yeah.
He might be able to pull it off.
So he needs 6 energy to take the knockout. He's going to be able to...
Well, so here's the thing. He needs 6 energy for the knockout, but then he needs 6 energy next turn for the knockout again.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we gotta focus on what we're doing this turn. I think it's going to be pretty difficult for him to get there. But not impossible. We thought it was going to be difficult last game, too, and he sure showed us.
All right, Beast Ring is in the deck, or Beast Energy, my apologies, is in the deck. And he will be able to catwalk if he draws into the Persian. I think that's probably his best out to set up knockouts 2 turns in a row. He does have the Cherish Ball to search for it.
Yeah, it looks like he pulled the Persian to the front of his deck, just making sure that it was there to find with the Cherish Ball. There is the
This is already there.
Beast Ring resolving.
All right, Cherish Ball gets that Persian GX. Catwalk, such a unique ability here. Searching your deck for any 2 cards if your opponent took a GX knockout last turn.
Being left with Lily Fire Energy in hand. Luke taking a minute to consider exactly which cards he wants to get.
Yeah, it depends here. So I really think he's going to need another Blacephalon and get some energy on it for next turn. But then he's going to probably have to pull off some Welder shenanigans. Reset Stamp could be a good option here as well. Granted, Sam's hand is not the best, but he does have double Custom Catcher.
Yeah, it just kind of depends. I think Luke's decision here comes down to what you think Sam has in his hand and how you think the next turn is going to go.
All right.
You can see him kind of playing out how he thinks things are going to go here.
1 minute left to go. Catwalks for that Reset Stamp and Blacephalon, and then he'll Lily for 6 cards. Need a couple Beast Ring. And then possibly a Welder for next turn.
All right, big turn here.
All right, Stamp. Get
There's
rid of
the
those
Stamp.
double custom catchers.
Goodbye. Here's 6 new cards with Lily. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see if Luke is going to draw what he needs.
Oh, Welder's pretty good. Beast Ring. And a Pokemon Communication. All right, we could be working with something cool here.
I mean, he's doing what he needs to do.
Oh, but man, 12 energy over 2 turns just seems insurmountable.
I mean, it's not going to be easy. I don't know how many. There are definitely enough in the discard pile here, but it's not going to be easy for him to string together. But it's about all he can do. Is time is expiring here.
Communications, the Naganadel that he got off of Ultra Space for the Ninetales. Kind of just getting it out there, but it's not really something that's going to be useful. Beast Ring, so there is 6 energy in play. He will be able to take the knockout if he chooses to, but again, that would leave him with nothing in play. And Sam with a knockout on board and then just 1 more knockout to take the game.
Yeah, importantly, 1 more knockout of any Pokemon as well. So here we go. Luke is doing what he can. All 6 of those energy.
All right, and I actually think it's not bad to leave the energy spread out on your Blacephalons, just because it is harder to get them set up. And if for some reason Sam draws a greens off this Reset Stamp, he's going to double Custom Catcher, probably take out the Persian, which means you wouldn't be able to get like the double Fire Welder turn.
Right. Heads up play there from Luke as we are in the last few turns of this game and this match.
Yeah, so this is interesting here. Sam has nothing going on in his hand right now. Top decked an energy spinner for the turn, choice band and mixed herbs, and then I believe, yeah, fire crystal. It is nothing to work with. He will be able to take the knockout, get 2 more prizes, but if his opponent reset stamps, if his opponent just gets like a bursting burn and is able to kind of build up a little bit of damage, Charizard wouldn't be able to use Flare Strike next turn. Outrage is your only attack left after using Double Blaze. He could be in a little bit of a pickle.
Yeah, there's lots of options. There's lots of way this game could potentially go from here. It just turns out on just comes down to which one is more likely.
Again, choice helmet doesn't really matter with the math too much, unless he was burned and then. So I guess it does matter if he goes for bursting burn.
All right, and there's that knockout we've been talking about. Sam now down to just 1 prize to Luke's 3.
Oh.
1 prize.
Gets the second mixed herb off the prizes as well. Something to maybe keep him in the active spot for an extra turn.
Blacephalon GX gets promoted. Fire Energy off the top, turns
that
on the welder.
Huge. He already had the 1, but having the 2 to get into play for free is insane. And wow, I think we might actually see him win, right? He just needs a Fire Energy. No. Oh, but Catwalk.
You can activate the Catwalk. There's the Fire Energy and the Beast Energy.
There we go.
Gonna just show it to Sam. Luke Doran is going to advance to 3-0 here, really showing the power of that Blacephalon GX. Throughout this match, we counted him out. I feel like we thought, okay, well, he just needs so much, right? He just needs to do all of these different things.
It's like, oh, he has 0 cards and like 0 energy in play, but this turn he has 6.
Yeah,
no wonder.
Yeah, he just. I think the deck is just one that maybe doesn't look like, looks like it needs to string a lot of things together, but the consistency in the welders and having a bunch of fire energy, having the ultra space, having the Naganadel is just, wow, great showing by Luke there. Very impressive, defeating one of the best